Hit record. All right, awesome. So yes,
Chris has been a
today
great trainer, so I thought I'd sit in.
he has been. I have big shoes to fill. So what I wanted to do today was just review some tips and tricks to make using DocuSign a little bit smoother, a little bit easier, and to ultimately help to save you time. I am hoping that some of the information I have for you is brand new. If not, you are very well versed in DocuSign, and that is an A plus for you. But I do hope that you learn a thing or two and you feel a little bit more comfortable using everything once you get going. So Beck, how long have you been using DocuSign for?
Maybe about a month, if that.
Okay. All right, awesome. So you've got some familiarity with it. What's your comfort level? Do you feel good using it? Is it still something that seems brand new?
I feel very comfortable using it.
Okay, awesome. So let me go ahead in and share my screen. So what I have done here is already created the opportunity, so we're going to be ready to go. In order to actually get into DocuSign, we'll hover over to the documents and then click on the Start a Transaction button, which I am sure you know. For our Market Center, we have two different checklists. One is going to be for residential and one is commercial. So if you're ever in the situation where you're required to pick a checklist, it's just going to be this drop-down menu on the left-hand side here, and then all of the appropriate documents will fill in accordingly. And then, of course, to get that room going, we click on the Start a Transaction button. Now, as you know, once you have the room created, you can't connect it into Command. It's only when you create that room from the Command dashboard, and that's how you get the connection between the two. So we have the opportunity and our room with the same name. What I like to do with the opportunities is always put in at least the street address when we're dealing with a listing. That way it keeps all of the opportunities and the rooms a little bit different, so they're a lot easier to find and a little bit more organized. So when it comes to actually adding the documents into your room, very easy to do. You just come ahead on DocuSign Forms. Now, I'm not sure if your view is a little bit different than mine, if it varies from Market Center to Market Center, but for Rutherford, we have two views here. I personally like the group view better because it differentiates the different packets and breaks them down a little bit further. So you will not only have your different MLS forms, but also the buyer's packet, listing packet, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the listing residential. All of the required documents will automatically be checked off for us. We simply click on add and we're good to go. You can then repeat that process for any other documents that you need to bring in. And you do want to fill in as much information as you can over on the details page. Now, one thing to note is that you don't necessarily have to do the details and then add the documents. You can do them reverse and everything will still filter over automatically. But it's definitely worth it to take some time and fill out as much of this information as you can so it does populate into the documents. Now, there is an option to create the templates in the My Docs area. So is this something that you guys have covered before?
I am not familiar with that, no.
Okay, great. So when you're creating a template, what it does is it allows you to populate a majority of the information into, for example, the contract or the lease, information that won't change from deal to deal. And that way you have a starting point where the contract or the lease, for example, is halfway, 3/4 of the way filled out, and then you're only going to need to go in and edit the details that are pertinent to that particular deal. So this will save you a lot of time in the long run. It's pretty easy to set up the templates. You'll simply go over to the My Docs section. And then we're going to go ahead and click on Form Templates. I have a few created here, and they are really, really easy to make. You're simply just going to click on the Create Form Template. And again, depending on whatever view you want, I'm going to go ahead and recreate the one I did earlier. So once you click on the document that you'd like to use, first thing I recommend doing is renaming that template. Now, you can create multiple templates for the same document. So if you wanted to create a document for the sales side as well as the lease side, you can do that. And that is when the naming of the template is really important. You can differentiate those templates. Once you type in and change the name, you have to click on this green check mark button. If you don't click on this before you save the document, the name will not change. So get in the habit of renaming your document and then clicking on that save button. Then you can come in and fill in as much information as you can that you know is going to stay the same from time to time. I'm just going to plug in a little bit of information here. So depending on which side you are going to be representing and you're prepping this template for, you can go ahead and fill in all the information. So I was just with our transaction coordinator, so she was able to guide me through what some of these would be in a real life example. Now, some things you can choose to fill in. You can always go in and change them when you're actually working within your room. But if you know, for example, a commission is likely always going to be the same or something along those lines, you can fill it in and change it later on if you need to, or just leave it blank and fill it in time by time. Completely up to you, whatever you feel more comfortable with. You're going to enter the broker's name here and their ID. Once you fill out as much information as you possibly can, you just simply click on Save and Close. And now that template is going to be created in our form templates area here. So this is the one I had just created. Now, let's say, for example, you left some areas blank and you have a little bit more experience, some more deals coming in, and you realize that you wanted to change something within that form. It's no problem at all. You simply click on that edit button and it will bring you right to that same window. So you'll be able to edit any information that you need to. Now, if you wanted to duplicate this template and use it for another purpose, simple. Simply click on this arrow here, and we're going to click on Copy. So now this will create a copy of the form that we've already filled out. So we have a lot of this information now already done for us. I'm going to rename my template. First thing you should do. I'm going to get rid of that word copy, and instead I'm going to say that this is going to be for a lease. And we'll click on Save. Then you can make any changes that you need to. So in this one, I believe these two are going to be no. I think these two were yes. I'm not 100% sure, but just for an example, we'll leave that as is. Click on Save and Close. And there we go. So now I have those two templates created in my account. And you can go through this process and prep as many documents as you see fit. Our transaction coordinator suggested that the contracts and the leases should definitely be something that you create those templates for, because ultimately they're going to save you a lot of time down the road. Do you have any questions about the form template so far?
No, that's great. Thanks.
Awesome. You're welcome. Now to actually apply those templates, again, going to be super easy. We'll go back into the room. And here we're going to come into documents again. Now you would go to add the document the same way you normally would. So I will add the document in as normal. Then all I'm going to do is right click on that document. And now an option comes up to apply the form template. This will now pop up all of the templates that we have available, so I can apply the correct template. There we go. So now you can go through that process really easily for all of these templates that you have created, and they will be filled out. Just wait a second. There we go. So now not only has the information from the template been filled out, but also some information that was already inputted in the details of the room. So this is going to make it really easy for you to just come in, enter in the few pieces of information, save and close, and you'll be on your way to getting those forms filled out in a lot quicker of a timeline than having to manually enter everything in one by one. Once you actually have the documents sent out for signatures and they're received, you're going to have multiple documents here of the same type. One will, for example, say the KWPV commission bill, and then the signed version will read the same thing, but it may say dashed signed at the end. In order to keep your signed documents separate from your templates, what we can do is we can add additional folders into our room to keep everything separate. To do that, you simply click on this action button and we can add a folder. Simple as that. What we've now done is created a separate folder. So let's say, for example, that the permission to advertise was signed. I can simply drag and drop, bring it over here. I can also rename the document. Now you can do this to whatever comfort level you want. I'm going to delete this. It's not necessarily pertinent. There we go. So now I just have the name of what that document is, signed. So it's going to be really easy for me to come into this room, view all of the signed documents compared to all of the templates that we had originally sent out to be signed. Not only does this keep you a little bit more organized in your room, but when it comes to adding the documents back into Command in your opportunity, it makes this process a lot easier as well. Now, in order to actually add in any documents, the best way to do that is going to be to click on this Attach Multiple Files button. And then you select DocuSign from the middle of your options here. This will then have that connection between your opportunity in Command and the DocuSign room. So you can simply come in and select from all the drop-down menus which documents are going to pair with the file name. So for example, here we have our permission to advertise. And if we scroll down, we see that all the signed documents that we would have are going to be in a separate area. Simply click on it. I would do the same thing for all of these other documents here. Simply click on attach. And there we go. It's right here ready for us. So this is great. I'm sure you already know, but this connection between the opportunity and the DocuSign room does allow you to transfer them over seamlessly. Transfer them over seamlessly, and you don't have to worry about downloading all the documents onto your computer, re-uploading them, taking up space on your hard drive, etc. And it just speeds up the process a lot because you can come in and just go boom, 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 assign all the documents, click attach, and you're good to go.
Great.
Now, if we go back into DocuSign, I do want to point out that there are some different things that you can do with the documents. You can either click on this Select All button or manually click on these circles here to select or unselect the documents. And that's going to have this little menu bar pop up. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but this is just a quick access to some really important things, such as creating an envelope. Now I know that this is a pen icon. This drives me up a wall because it should be an envelope, but I didn't create this, so I can't be, can't harp on it too much. But the pen is going to be, it just drives me crazy. So the pen is going to be to create an envelope to get your documents prepped, send them out for signatures. But you can also archive or unarchive documents and completely remove them as well. So if you had a document that was signed, perhaps something needed to be revised, and then you had it re-signed, the original signed documents you can simply archive. That way they're not taking up space in your room, and simply to alleviate any confusion that you may find with having your documents completely overloaded in this section. This is also where you can email them to yourself, download them, or combine them. So if you needed to transfer all the documents into one PDF or 2 documents into one PDF, you do have that ability here. So I do like to point that out as well. Now, when you are finished with a transaction, let's say the deal is done, everything is good to go, you can actually close the room. And by closing the room, you can select your status, whether the property is sold, leased, maybe the offer was not accepted, something was canceled, whatever the reason may be. You simply click on submit. That way, when we look into our rooms, any non-active rooms will not show on this main menu. As you can see, I have a ton of rooms here. I have a lot of famous friends, and I make a lot of examples. So that's why my room view is completely packed. But if I were to actually take my own advice and get into the habit of archiving different rooms, they'd be separated. So here's the one that we just put in. And once it's actually closed, they'll file under this section here. So you'll always be able to come in and view and access any of this information, but it's just going to keep this view a little bit cleaner and a little bit neater. So you're only going to look at the rooms for deals that you currently have going on. Now, there is one more thing that I did want to point out. I'm just going to open the room. 4 different documents, depending on whose signature you may need. There are times when you are going to need the broker's signature. And in order to have that broker as a pre-tagged role, what you can do is actually input their information in as the secondary listing agent. So the nice thing again about creating this room through command is that the information for the listing agent 1, which would be you, is filled in automatically. But you can actually go in and put the broker's information in listing agent 2. So our broker is Rob Keith. And I'm going to go ahead and click on save.
Question.
Sure.
By making them a seller co-listing agent, it doesn't affect the amount of deals you do at the end?
No, this is purely going to be for the signature field purpose. Anything that you do in here won't affect what's going on within command. So when you're in command within the offers and commissions area, that's where you would say that you were working with another agent or had a referral, and that would take into effect. But whatever you do in DocuSign here is not going to transfer over, so you don't have to worry about that.
Thank you.
Of course. I'm going to go back into our documents here, and I'm going to go ahead and create that envelope. Just wait a minute. There we go. Now the envelope name, you really don't need to worry about. There's really no point in renaming it. You can just leave it as is. If you notice that some documents didn't transfer over, you can always click here to add them in, or if you need to remove one, click on that X. And the most important aspect on this page is going to be adding the recipients to the envelope. It is best practice to use the pre-tagged roles, because this will actually allow you to match up your sellers, buyers, listing people, etc., with the people in the room. So in this example, my seller 1 is Amy Bowler, and my seller 2 is Tina Fey. Now, based on one of the forms that I put in, it does ask for the listing broker. And what I'm going to do is simply click on Rob's name. Now, even though I had added him in as the listing agent number 2, it doesn't matter in this instance because the pre-tagged roles are just going to be where the signature fields will go. So while yes, the listing agent 2 information may transfer over into some documents, if those fields are there, which I don't believe that they would be on many forms, if any, it's not going to be the same information that's automatically inputted when it comes to adding in the signature fields. So this is where we can say, all right, we've got our listing broker and it's Rob. I'm going to click on add selected. Now, since I've added them in, we do see the 3 people that have been added as a recipient have roles attached to them. If you did need to add someone in manually, you can always do that, and you can add in their name and email, assign the signature fields automatically, and you'll be good to go. It just takes 1 or 2 extra minutes. Now, if you're ever in an instance where you have to have something viewed by someone else, mandatory, or they just simply want to receive a copy, you do have the ability to change that designation here. And you also do have the ability to designate the order in which the forms are received. So let's say I want this person to receive a copy. It's Bob Smith. And I want him to receive this only after everyone else has signed. By changing this number to a number 2, this designates that all the number 1s must receive and sign all the paperwork before anyone with the number 2 designation receives that information. So you can use this in whatever way you need. If everyone gets the same documents at the same time, you can just keep them all at a level 1 or a number 1, and you'll be good to go. The bottom part here, this is just going to be prepping your email subject line and message. So definitely above all else, recommend changing the subject line, whether it's please, DocuSign, listing agreement, or paperwork for 123 Main Street, whatever it is, definitely add that in, and then your email message can be short and sweet. Once we click on the wrong button, once we click on the next button, this is where we will see where all of the signature fields are. So every person in the room does have their own color associated with them. And as we scroll down, we will see where all of the signature fields go. So because we had added Rob in as a listing agent, we designated him as the listing broker when it comes to the signatures, and they've automatically populated for us here. Now, if you ever do need to change the signature fields, you can do so in a number of different ways. Whether you simply click on this, come over here and change the person, you can do that. Or you can simply drag and drop to create a new one. To delete it, you can bring it over here, or simply come over here and click delete. So a couple different ways to get from point A to point B. You can also utilize some of these other fields here. So for example, if you needed to add in a checkbox, you can bring the checkbox right over here to the appropriate square. And when you go to checkbox values, you can have it checked off automatically. So this way, it's one less step that someone may have to worry about. Now, one other thing that you can do is add additional text to these forms. Now, this is of course going to be dependent on the form and the situation, but if there ever was an instance where you needed to add a note, you can simply take this text box and bring it over. You'll add your text in here, and then click on Read Only. This will have the text layout and be permanent wherever you place it. So just in case you needed to add in a little footnote, or perhaps a date was missing, anything along those lines, you can go ahead and add that in. And I definitely do recommend doing this with either yourself as the signature field or your listing broker. Anyone who's not necessarily the buyer or the seller in this situation will just make things a little bit easier. Once you're ready, click on that send button. They get sent out. You'll get notified when everything is signed and received. And all your signed documents, once again, will show up within the area here. Do you have any questions about anything that I went over? Anything else that you wanted me to cover? I feel like I kind of talked a mile a minute without taking a breath, so I apologize if I sped through that.
No, it was great, but I do have a question. If
Sure.
we have a document we've already done, is it possible to make it a template?
A document that was already filled out by your buyer or seller?
Or us before the signatures came in, yes.
Before the signatures came in, that is a great question.
That's okay, just wondering.
What was the question again?
Well, if I've already filled out a form or have a different forms I've already have in my rooms, can I make it a template just so it's always there?
Not yet. it can only work with the forms in DocuSign right now.
No, but they would be DocuSign forms that
Oh,
maybe
right.
I've done in my rooms. Okay, just wondering.
Yeah, it looks like for right now, we're only limited to the new forms that
Yeah.
would be coming in.
Yeah, so I think the end goal is to have it where you can upload your own and you can create a template off of that and then have that as your own template.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else that you had a question on that you wanted to explore a little bit more? Thoughts, feelings?
No, not for me. I'm good. Thanks.
Okay,
That was
awesome.
a really good first class. You did a really good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Got the
Nice little
anxiety and the
pilot
nerves
there.
out. Yeah, exactly. Beck, I'm happy that you were my guinea pig on this. You were a great great student to have. So I thank you.
Well, I'm incognito because I was eating my lunch. I didn't want to be stuffing my face during it all.
No problem at all. I hope you're eating something good.
Thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome. Absolutely. You
Chris.
can reach out to either of us if you have any questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
You can, Amanda, you can just send me that video too, and I'll put it on YouTube later.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. All right,
Thanks
I'll
so
talk to you
much.
later.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Bye.